Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Homecoming Season 1, Episode 3. It's called Optics. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. And this is the one where if the direction wasn't impressive in the first two, or it didn't wow you, I feel like this is the one that was like, nah, Sam Esmail can do a thriller. He can do suspense, he can do kind of like uneasy atmosphere kind of thing. Because we start in the future, but we'll come back to that. We'll do the wraparound stuff at the end, maybe. But we start off in the present day stuff with Schreier and Walter wanting to leave the place just to go get a drink. It's like, no, and it's Walter's idea just to ease his mind, to ease Schreier.
Prove that they're in Florida.
Yeah. And he goes to the woman at the desk, and she's like, oh, and she's kind of like edgy about it. She's like, maybe you shouldn't. She tries to suggest some board games. And she's like, no, let me go and get the form you have to fill out to leave. Which may actually be true. Maybe there's a form.
Yeah, it sounds just about plausible, but just about suspicious. Because she goes round on the phone, and we hear her say, "Oh, there's someone trying to leave," and we don't hear anything after that. It could be, "Could you come down with the form and authorize this?" Or it could be, "Come down and stop them." Right?
Yeah.
It could go. You could read it either way.
And Schreier, being in a state of paranoia, just grabs her keys off the desk and runs out to one of the cars, one of the vans. And Walter runs after him, tries to talk him out of it, but when he refuses, he goes with him to keep an eye on him, basically, make sure he doesn't do anything weird or drastic. You know, he's doing this as a friend, not because he wants to run away as well. And man, the shots of them driving through the night,
pretty great.
Yeah, it was almost under the skin levels of tone, like the way it was just them in the quiet countryside roads. There was nothing in the air for miles. And there's a car coming up behind them at one point, and it's like, is this like one of them? Is this them coming after us? And I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like guys in like with nightsticks and shit. You're coming out to grab them back in. But I was just like random old that guy. I mean, he could be a plant. He could be like keeping an eye on them, but no, I'm just a random old guy. And he's like, oh, they've even got a Florida license plate. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, remember when they built that whole like African town outside wherever it was?
Yeah, for simulation and practice.
Training mission, yeah.
Um,
and he's like, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah, and it was that accurate. They could do it again easily.
Yeah, because he said it even had the smells, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah, and it's like, if they can do it with this place from the other side of the world, they can do it with Florida.
Yeah. And they get to this town, which again, it was almost like walking into a David Lynch movie for like a minute. Where they get to this small town, it looks like a fake town. It almost looks like the main street out of The Good Place, but it's nighttime, so it's kind of creepy.
It looks like a movie set.
Yeah, it looks kind of fake. And they go up to this window and there's shoes, and and it's got cobbled road, which is kind of weird for the location. I think if it's supposed to be in Florida, and then the lights all come on at the same time, and it's like. And it feels like security's here because
it feels like a setup, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it turns and Schreier tackles the guy that's walking towards him, and it turns out he's just like a security guard. He's not even got a gun on him. He's got like a flashlight and like something else. And that's when we cut to like the interview with Heidi, and it turned Walter's just like telling this story. He's like, oh no, it was fine. This guy. It turned out the reason why this place was so dead right now is because it was an old folks home. Like an old folks community,
little retirement town,
and they were all asleep, and this guy was just coming to check what was going on because two weird guys kind of showed up and were making noise,
doing his job basically.
Yeah, but he was in, I think they said, the Navy, so he kind of understood the coming back home, and he kind of like let it go, and everything was fine. And Heidi like questions about it, but I just wanted the direction for that sequence, that them driving and then them arriving in this town, was great. And I loved how like the spelling on one of the shop signs was just a little bit different enough to make you think, is this in a place that's not like English isn't the first language?
Okay.
I can't remember what the word was, but it was spelt differently. Do you know sometimes like a coffee shop might use like the Italian spelling for something on the sign?
Right.
Yeah, it was something like that, and because I noticed it, and it looked kind of weird. I was like,
I don't think I noticed. I think my brain just did that thing where it fixed it because I knew what it was meant to be.
And I just wondered, is this like somewhere foreign? Like, is this not even an English speaking place? But no, it seems like it is. It's just one of those. Again,
it does seem like they're in Florida, doesn't it?
It does seem that way. Because even later on, the boyfriend in the future says, "Oh, how's Tampa?" So I mean,
yeah,
so that confirms that no, they're in Florida, and this was just paranoia. But man, they did a good job of making me think if it was or it wasn't for a while.
Yeah. I think I said last episode there was just enough that if you think about it, that I could believe that they weren't in Florida. Just enough.
But then here we are. And so she's talking to Walter, and he kind of brings up how well they know each other and how close they are, him and Schreier. And she doesn't seem to understand, so he kind of starts to question a little bit about her relationships. And it's like, have you ever been on a road trip with a boyfriend? She's like, no, I've had boyfriends. Like, yeah, but you've never been on a road trip. You've never been driving for hours. And then he says, okay, what if we were on a road trip, right? And we went to where does it says we're going to go? I can't remember.
Somewhere shit sounding.
But they're so we'll go and see the sights, we'll do these things here or there, but the vast majority of it we're going to be sitting in a car. And what do we do? We'd start off doing this, we'd have a playlist, you'd read, that's what she says she would want to do. But after a while you get bored because you're just there for so long, and it's when you both get bored that you kind of become really close with a person, because it's like that's when you become that's probably the most genuine you ever become, just yourself to someone else, is when you stop acting like you're with someone, kind of the idea. And he says, and for them, add in gunfire to that. Add in being shot at whilst you're in this situation.
Where you're bored.
Yeah. But you're bored, yeah. So, it was a nice little thing, and it was kind of examining her character and the way that he's kind of learning about her as well, to the point where she puts down the pen in perfect alignment with her pad. He he slants it just enough to annoy her, just to make a point and say, hey, this bothers you, and then she immediately fixes it.
I've done that before, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I feel like his intention here is a lot more well-intentioned than yours probably was.
Yeah, mine was just to annoy him.
Yes.
That was funny. It was funny. Stand by it.
Anyway, so, but again, this is a scene of them bonding. It's a scene of them getting close in some way, and it's effective because then when she goes home and she's with the boyfriend's breaking up with her and moving out of the house, and she doesn't really care. Which kind of realizes, she says, I think this is for the best. And he's like, I'm talking about moving out. He's like, oh, I know.
And he's like, are you going to try and stop me?
And then he tries to stop her from answering the phone because Colin's phoning again. We have to have a conversation with Colin on the phone every episode. That's the trend so far.
Yeah.
And he basically is just like, when she grabs the phone back, she's like, okay, that's it, we're done, get out of my house. So he's left there sitting, and she goes outside and talks. I have to say, I'm enjoying the phone effect when they're on the conversation.
The split screen.
Not the split screen, no, the audio. They actually have the sound effect.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It sounds, the shitty phone.
It's
tone.
Arguably a little too shitty for what phones actually sound like now.
That's fair. Phones have gotten better over time.
They're stupidly clear now. But I mean, if you want the effect, effect, don't you?
Yeah, you want it to be more not subtle. You want people to notice it.
You want to make a point about it.
Yeah. The idea that they're disconnected, that she's so invested in what she's doing, but the only contact she has with her superior is like over this great distance.
Yeah.
And this time he's at his daughter's birthday party, and I thought it was interesting how he kind of mirrored her stuff, where she's ignoring her boyfriend, doesn't give a shit. He's kind of getting chastised just with the eyes. We don't even hear her say anything really by his wife, because he's on the phone about work where it's his daughter's birthday party. And then he gets the real scolding when he comes back in and he's missed the start of the cake.
Yeah. Gotta rush off then, hasn't he?
Yeah. The most interesting part of this, though, is how he's looking into cars outside, and he's suspicious of a house across the street.
Yeah. He's into something shady.
Well, I mean, I think the homecoming is the shady thing.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But
Yeah.
it's maybe even more shady than we realised if there's actively people searching for him.
Or at least he's paranoid enough to think there is.
Yeah, he's paranoid enough to, and that's presumably why he wants this distance of, I mentioned before I thought Heidi was kind of the scapegoat, because he's never there in person. It's always, she's the supervisor. It's always her name that's on everything.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He has this deniability.
Yeah, which I think is more interesting, just her being the scapegoat at the end, because someone has to take the fall. The idea that it was always set up that way, that she was there from the start to be the face of it. But, and adding to that, he's not in the photograph at the end, which we'll talk about, but so they'll talk about things. He wants to maybe double the medication, and she's like, no, that's a terrible idea, that'll cause all sorts of effects. But he wants for the Schreier.
We learn they're getting it through the food.
Through the food, yeah, which was kind of something that Schreier was kind of suspicious of.
Yeah, but only at lunchtime though.
Only at lunchtime.
That's their dosage, and that's why it's like, all right, is everyone eating at lunchtime?
But he actually wants for the Walter as well, and she has to like really fight him on this, and she convinces him. She makes enough of a point to convince him to let Walter stay because he's a good candidate, and this makes it a bit more dramatic. The story that we can sell later that he did escape and do this with Schreier, but he came back round because everything else about him is actually really promising.
Yeah.
But it's also a shame that she cares for him, which adds extra oomph to the ending of the episode when we get to the reveal. But I thought that was again good character building because you kind of feel it in your stomach. You're like, this is going to end badly. They're getting closer and closer. They're feeling like they're having more of a bond as time goes on.
Yeah.
And by the end, it's going to be bad. And the end of the episode kind of confirms that. When Carrasco's like checking because he's sort of going off book. He's supposed to be dropping this because the episode starts with him in the future. Like he's going to submit his report saying that it's all
really
done.
Shitty PC screen.
Yeah. 2023 or whatever this is supposed to be.
22, I think.
22. And he goes down to the records room. He wants to look at the employment records. And he's upset to find out that her file is, it's in whatever it is, like 242 or whatever number it was. But there's like 30 boxes with that number. And he starts looking through them, and we come back to him at the end, and he finds some homecoming stuff. He finds like a flyer that's like just information about it, a little pamphlet, and there's a photo in the back that she's in, but of course, as we said, Colin's not there, so adds maybe more credibility.
He's keeping his distance. He wants nothing to do with this officially.
But he finds her record, and he's looking at the date of termination, and it's the 15th of May. And I immediately went, wait a minute, that's the same date that the violent incident happens. And then I was like, but why would she be terminated for that? But then he just glanced, the camera just pans over, reason for termination, hospitalised. And I'm like, oh dear.
Yep.
And then he does the same thing. He gets the other one out, and it really makes it clear that he compares the two of them.
Maybe overdoes it just a touch, actually.
Yeah, maybe. I could see that. Yeah, I think he's trying to emulate that he's double checking it because he has the thought and then he wants to look at it and then he's looking back and forth and he's like, shit.
Yeah, I think it just shows it once too many times.
That's fair. And there's also the running thing here where he keeps having to wave his hand because the motion light keeps going off.
Yeah, I've been there.
Oh yeah, I've been there as well.
That's so annoying.
But he's down there working, and that's kind of what we end the episode on. But really interesting. I think the crux of the show building towards Walter being violent towards Heidi, despite the fact that they have so much chemistry, it adds this sense of tragedy and foreboding tragedy to the whole thing. It's one thing to know that something bad was going to happen. It's another thing once we care about both characters and we care about their connection in some way. And it feels like now, I've got this feeling in the pit of my stomach. What's going to cause this? Is it the drugs they're giving them? Is that what's going to cause it? Is it more than that?
I mean, I think we can deduce that the drugs are part of it, given how, we know what the reaction has been, from Colin about, the shares like, oh no, he's violent, he's getting violent. That's it, Terminator. Right?
Yeah, week 5 burnout, just get rid of him.
Yeah, but also, she argues back that if we cut off people cold turkey, because he obviously wants to, cut off Walter as well. It's like, if we cut him off cold turkey, that's it. They're gonna be violent. They're gonna lash out, and so maybe it's a case of that because he also mentions the placebo pills as well. So if one of them stops eating but keeps taking the pills for whatever, maybe they skip lunch but they keep taking the placebo pills, thinking that they're still getting their medication. Maybe they go off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, no, there's definitely things opening up there. And then the big thing, though, is we get a future scene with Heidi as well, who goes to see the boyfriend. And what's interesting about this is it kind of confirms something we were speculating last episode, is that she genuinely does not remember anything.
And I think this is what Homecoming is. I think that's the point of Homecoming. My speculation right now is she is a successful patient of Homecoming, in the sense that the point of Homecoming is to make them forget their experiences in the war, right? So that they don't have PTSD.
I can see that. I can see that for sure.
So they use it on her to like, right, okay, let's just make her forget about it.
No, I can see that because she remembers moving there. She remembers getting the job, but she doesn't remember anything of the actual time there. To the point where she's because he thinks she's wanting to connect with him, and he even says that he's not moved on. So he's really open to like making this a thing.
It's just isn't interested.
And she's just there though because she wants to like fish for any details she might have mentioned to him. Because when he says, "Oh, you always talk to Colin," and she's like, "Colin."
Yeah.
Yes. And he even clocks that she's talking about him like she doesn't even remember who he is. So that's interesting because last episode when she was talking to her mum, and I said that no, it's like she genuinely is confused about this, about why she's back. So I'm glad it went in that path because I think it's interesting. Like she has her own reason to investigate things now. She's had time taken from her.
I think if that is what Homecoming is, and she's a successful patient, that's really interesting because it's like the idea that she didn't even notice that she'd forgotten, right? She didn't realize or think it was weird. It wasn't like there was. Now that she's thinking about it, it's like there's
it wasn't until someone came and asked about her time there that she went, wait a minute.
Yeah, like I don't really know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get why that would be appealing to do for like soldiers, right? Like, okay, just make them forget anything they've seen, forget about the horrors.
I presume though they only do this to her. I think there's the thing where she's also part of the experiment, right? But given the violent incident we know was coming, I wonder if they only do this to her because of the violent incident and because of her experience.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, because she would have PTSD if she didn't get it as well.
Yeah.
So
it could be a bit of both. It's like, well, it'll protect her because she won't suffer, and also covers our backs because she can't remember things to be liable for.
I feel I'm inclined to think it's more to do with covering their backs than to helping her. But I mean, who's to say? I mean, maybe they'll have more of a heart than that. But right now, I'm not getting caring from Colin. I'm getting.
I'm not really, but it might be a nice bonus side effect.
Yeah. No, actually, there was something I wanted to mention about last episode's direction that I forgot to bring up, and I really want to talk about it. There's a scene where she's driving home, in last episode, and I want to talk about what the camera was doing during this scene. Now, you're familiar with chest cam, right? Or snorri cam, it's sometimes called.
Yeah.
Right, where the actor's got a rig where the camera's connected to them, and the other one's handling it, and it's usually pointing at their face. Most movies and TV shows will use it for when they're like in a daze or they're high or something like that, and it gives this effect where they're like the background's moving, but they seem perfectly still, even though they're moving through something, right?
Yeah.
So you get this kind of weird, like sort of almost trippy effect from it. It's something that Upgrade used a lot, actually, the movie that came out this year. Whenever the chip in his head was taking control of his body, it would use it in a really effective way. And I commented when I reviewed that, actually, that one of the most effective things about it is that normally chest cam's a really close-up thing because it's just the chest. That movie did this really great thing where the camera would be really far back into like a really wide medium shot, and it would still have that effect. So I'm not even sure how they did it, if they actually attached it to him from a distance or if they did some other technique. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because they had this effect on the car last episode, and it was really surreal. Because the car was perfect, because usually you're filming a car, it'll feel separate from the camera. Here it was perfectly still with the camera, but obviously the movement was still happening. One of the comments actually said it looked like a video game almost, because obviously in a video game you don't have the natural separation from it.
Yeah.
But I noticed it and it felt weird, and you could even, and what impressed me the most is, and I'd assume the way they filmed this is they did have it rigged to the car, and they CG'd the connection out, because you could see the bottom of the car, you could see some of the road behind it. So that was even more impressive to me, as I was like, wait, I'm getting this effect, but I can see all around it, and my filmmaking knowledge tells me that this camera has to be connected to it.
Easy enough to CG out some cables these days.
Yeah. It wouldn't even just be a cable though, it would be like an actual
a
mount
full rig,
from the probably under the car, I imagine, would be where the rig comes from.
Still not that much of a challenge these days, especially when a show has minimal CG anyway. It would be very easy to, we can spend our time on this thing.
Very unique though. It really stood out to me.
Yeah.
It really stood out to me. The idea that because
stood out so much you forgot to mention it.
Yeah, but sometimes this effect is used as well to show that someone is kind of disconnected from the world. They're in their own world, right, and everything else is just around them. And I think it's interesting to use that for Heidi, but even more so use it when she's in her car going home. And the idea that the rest of the world completely is, because it makes it bigger, right? It makes it bigger that she's only in her own little car and everyone else is just irrelevant. And we see that she acts that way with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think thematically there's some things going on there, and I'll be looking for more techniques. Because like I say, this episode had a bunch of little, just really good, strong direction, especially early on, and not the fake town, the retirement town, but it looked fake.
Yeah,
intentionally.
Even
so.
In the future bit, at the start, when he's looking at the screen, and that such that tight aspect ratio, when he's really nailing in on the words, and you only get like 2 words on the screen.
Yeah,
because it's that tight. It felt really strong and unique in that sense.
Yeah, no, it really did. And then he punctuates it a lot in the scene actually, because he clicks his pen a lot, and it kind of it adds to the music almost. Like you've got the more subtle music that the show's got, and then you've got him clicking his pen that kind of adds a little bit of percussion almost to it.
Yeah. So I saw Esmail tweeting that he was really glad people were discussing aspect ratios. He's our people.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Esmail's my sort of dude.
Yeah.
I want to ask him what the exact ratio is. What is it?
Send him a tweet. He might answer it.
Yeah, he might. What is the ratio? My guess would be 5-4, but that's just a stab in the dark, just based on
what you realistically know, and then can extrapolate down.
But it could be a unique ratio that they decided on for whatever reason.
Yeah. But he'll have the number.
He'll have the number, yeah. But no, that's episode 3 of Homecoming, which, for a show that is, I mean, this one was a little bit longer at 33 minutes, but we're getting like 20 minutes of conversation out of these episodes, and they're not that long, so it's doing something right. It's poking at my brain and making me think, and the direction's phenomenal still. So. We'll be back with the next episode the day after tomorrow, so look forward to that. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?